Thanks for joining me today. I'm so excited to talk to you about how to enhance your client experience and get paid faster. So we're going to spend about 30 minutes just going through tips and tricks that are very practical around the incredibly uncomfortable experience of asking your clients for money. So we know it's tough. That's why we wanted to have this session to really talk through what we've seen across engineering, architectural, and design firms, some tips and tricks for how you can work through and get clients paid faster. And we're gonna have some toolkits and sample billing language and downloadable content for you to make sure you can take this today and apply it as soon as you're done, right back into your practice. So I'm kicking off for the agenda today. I'm Meg Swanson. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of ClientPay. Thrilled to be with you. My whole background has been technology marketing. How do we do innovation, especially around the built environment, and really looking at how we help you run your business, because there wasn't a section within architectural school and as you were working on engineering that really focused on here's how you tell everyone what everything costs. Here's how you negotiate with a client. So that's why we're having this session today, because we want to make sure that we're taking the anxiety out of it, because we want to make sure that you get paid for the work that you're doing, which is the entire focus of this talk. So we're going to talk through, straight talk about payments. We're going to talk about that forward-thinking payment experience and why it's so important for you to have a payments digital presence, because we want your firm to look really digitally forward, because that's where research is happening from clients. And we want to make sure that goes all the way through to the payment experience so they have an amazingly seamless experience with you. And sometimes here at ClientPay, we call that experience a surprisingly great experience. So we want to make sure it's delightful and it excites customers and your clients. And in order to do that, we want to make sure that your clients have the flexibility that they need to get paid, because that is the one area where you do see negative customer references. And we all know our businesses are based on client satisfaction, references coming in, and we want to make sure that you are extremely strong in that area. And then we're going to have all kinds of checklists for you at the very end. So one thing, as we look at all of the digital transformation going on, whether it's interactive design with CAD modeling and 3D design and immersive experiences where you're taking your customers through virtual reality experiences, all the way over to IoT, how do we plug and wire everything so we can get the right data and information to help power and fund future expansions and experiences. Those are all great innovations. We want your time to be focused there. One of the other innovations is how do you increase your profitability? So I know there are a lot of examples where you're told if you do this, you will increase the profitability of your firm. And what I want to do today is really show you with a couple tips and tricks how you can take your profitability that you'll get by advancing and being a little more assertive in online payments or payment functionality, so that you can pour that time that you won't be spending there right back into how do you keep your firm ahead and on the latest and greatest technology to delight your customers and create great experiences. Because the thing that we found over the years is that of your time, and your time is incredibly valuable. This is how your firm gets paid. This is how you get paid. You're only getting paid for about 75% of the time that you're working on an account with a client. And so we need to stop that, reverse the trend, and make sure that we're capturing your time, we're having those conversations and getting you paid for 100% of your time so that we can focus on all the other areas that will help expand your business. So when we're talking about increasing the profitability of your firm, the profitability, easy to say, I'm talking about very simple things. So we want your clients to be able to pay you easily without you having to chase them. This is the worst part of all of our jobs, is that they either end of the month or end of the year, you're doing reconciliations, you realize you haven't gotten paid. That's the call you never want to make to an end client. So we're really going to show a couple tips and tricks to make sure that we can get that out of the routine. And this is really talking about how do you get to work faster. I'm going to show you a case study of a firm that is able to start so much quicker on projects just because they're able to invoice their fixed price contracts sooner and recognize a payment on those sooner. And then we all know there are change orders. That is life, and that's a good thing that there's change, but we want to make sure that you're coaching your clients through that up front so that it's not a surprising experience for them, but it is a surprisingly great experience for them. And so we'll talk through kind of all points across your life cycle with your customers of how you can be having that conversation and reinforcing it. So one practical step is, instead of having to chase customers, is really making the whole experience for payment so seamless. So we want to make sure that you're setting up client authorization forms right up front. So as you're talking through the proposal, as you're taking in client information, we have one of the most popular, most downloaded asset that we have is the authorization form. And this is the time that you can talk to them about, how do they want to pay, what kind of payment schedule do they want to be on, and you can get that all set up right in the authorization form. The other thing to talk through is how do you want to communicate around not only the project, but around payments. Because as we know, sometimes the person you're working with day to day is not the payer. And so you want to find out, is it email, is it text messaging, what's the right way? And that way you have the conversation up front versus making an assumption, sending an invoice, and then getting the response of, oh, yeah, well, we can't find the invoice. And so this way you've got that all set up front where you're like, great, this is the person, I'm gonna text it to them, here's the date, here's the time that I sent it. So it's just crystal clear, and it takes that awkwardness out of it. And the other piece that we wanna do is make sure that you put a payment link on your website. And that, as I talked about earlier, a lot of times we know that your clients and various firms, they're doing research on you digitally. They're researching your website, they're researching the projects that you've done in the past, and they're also looking for how digitally forward you are throughout the entire experience, through communication, through the schematics, through planning. And if they also see, oh, there's payment online, honestly, even if they're not going to use the payment online, it helps position you as being set up as a larger firm and being set up for success as they're looking at how is this experience going to be, how seamless is this going to be. And so making sure that you've got that digital acceptance, right there on your website, sets them and you up for success. And the reason we want to make sure that you're having those conversations around how do you want to get paid? When do you want to pay us? How do you want to get paid? Because we know that 62% of bills that are sent digitally, whether text or email, they get paid within 24 hours. We do this as consumers, right? So you get a notification, a quick bill, or you're clicking through Amazon and you just pay right away because that is the experience. And so we want to take advantage of that. And then 86% of those people are paying within the same week. So this goes back to getting you paid for more of your time. Just make it seamless, make it easy, and transparent upfront. And then the other area is really invoicing those fixed price contracts a lot sooner within the process. So having a conversation around there, if there's a fixed price, talk to your customer about, or your client about, scheduling payments. And start looking at, okay, across this contract, are there points where we could break this up into 4 payments or 6 payments, and start looking at what time of the month is best. If it's a residential client, is it right after they get paid, or right after maybe they have a quarterly payout? If it's a commercial client, how does their accounts payable and invoicing work? So make sure that you're sending it at the optimal time within the month for them, which makes sure that you're going to get paid that much faster rather than putting it on your terms. So if we flip that, it usually helps advance payments a bit faster. And then we've all seen QR codes coming back with contactless menus and restaurants and contactless payment. So generate a QR code from your payment pages. You can put it on your business cards, you can put it on your invoices, you can put them anywhere to make sure that someone's able to hover over it, scan and pay, and it eliminates that discussion. If they're standing in your lobby and you're talking about an invoice, you can say, oh, here's our QR code right here. You can just scan and pay right now, make it super easy for you. So it's just about eliminating that barrier and making it as quick as possible. The other area that we talked about are the change orders. So things change. I used to have a team that we worked with, and they knew there was a lot of change, so they taught their entire team to say, this is a change, and then the team would respond, change is good. And so it was where we were having a lot of stops and starts on contracts. And so it just kind of got to be like Pavlovian, like change is good. And so we know there will be change orders. What we don't want to do is have it be a bill shock or a surprise moment within the experience, because you're already having to deliver news on either increased materials cost or change of scope and how that affects the timeline. The last thing you want to do is have this be a surprise to them that and that there's also going to be a payment increase or change as well. So have those conversations up front and let them know, based on our experience, these are the kinds of things you should be expecting, just to help ease them through it. And then these are also times that you can talk about different payment methods. You can change those within the life of the project, where you set up payment schedules, based on change orders and things to make the experience for your client that much smoother. And another feature that you want to make sure you have if you've got clients on auto pay is that you have an account updater feature. And what this means is if you have their credit card on file, whether it's a residential or on the commercial side, as you know, those cards either expire out, or maybe they were a victim of fraud, so they change their card number, and then when you go to process that payment, it gets declined. So you want to make sure you have the technology running in the background, which is from most major payment providers, where it just automatically updates those accounts, the account numbers on the cards as they change. That way it's seamless to you. Your client doesn't need to go in and update a new expiration date. It's already set in the system, and it's just another way to remove friction, because when you have to call in and say, oh, your client, or your credit card, our data is a little, not up to date in your file, we need to update it. That's just you having a conversation that we don't want you to have. We want you to be talking about the project, talking about their experience, and so you want to leave all that back-end technology discussion and tech to your payment providers. And then having all those multiple ways to pay is really key, because that's when you can have those conversations throughout changes. So a firm that we've worked with recently, they're on the engineering side. They've got around a little less than 25 employees, and they moved from accepting payments 100% through check to moving digitally. And as you can imagine, they started experiencing an increase in revenue, faster processing. There were a couple of things that they were surprised to see. So one of those is that as they were doing refunds, so maybe a retainer was set up and not all of the retainer was used, or there was a project change and something needed to be refunded along the way, that used to be a pretty big process in their firm. And so they would have to go back, accounting had to be involved, and with less than 25 employees, and some of you might have more than that. Some of you are saying, man, I'd love to have 25 employees, it's just me. That we know refunds take time, and that's a process that's taking you away from doing what you want to do every day. And so with having online payments, you literally can log into a portal, select your client, issue your refunds, and be off and running. So it just made it that much more seamless for them. And then for payments, anybody who answered the phone in the company could process a payment. So all of a sudden it took all the pressure out of a very small accounting team and opened it up where it was so simple and easy for either a client to pay through QR code or online, or anybody who answered the phone was able to do it. And then something that was pretty simple is, since they were check-based, they could really only accept checks either through the mail, or people would drop them off during their business hours. And so you can imagine it's after business hours, you're trying to pay, so the owners would have to run down, open up the firm, accept payment, and then projects would get delayed getting started because there's a delayed notification of when a check cleared and when engineering survey work can go on, or when multiple bidders can be brought in on a contract. And so by having everything digitally, it was seamless that as soon as the payment was processed, the entire team was notified, and they were able to start projects a week to sometimes 2 weeks faster than they had seen in the past. So great, just advancements in how they're able to accept payments, and some of the things that we love seeing across firms, which is how do we get you more time back, and how do you get more profitable? And when we look at just having more ways to pay and talking about having a payment page on your website, one of the things you also need to make sure that you have is Google ReCaptcha. And so ReCaptcha, we all know, it's where you have a couple of different images that are shown to you, and you have to choose what's a stoplight, what's a bicycle. And it's ironic that we have to prove to a robot that we are not robots, but that is the world that we live in with ReCaptcha. But it's really important that as you get a payment page set up online, that you have that ReCaptcha technology in, because that protects any kind of someone who's trying just to test cards to see if they work or not. they'll look for any kind of payment page to do the testing on that. And you want to make sure that your firm is secure, that you have that security in place on having Google ReCaptcha in place on your forms. So make sure that as you're moving, or if you're accepting payments digitally right now, that you make sure you have that in place to make sure that you're totally set and secure. And as we talk through your client experience, all of you have a different customer journey or client journey and flow. So we have one up on the screen, which is running from engagement all the way through to construction administration. You've got bidding, construction design in there. So you will all have your own unique flow. And what I would suggest for you to do is get Post-it notes and just kind of map out, if you don't already have one, here's the flow. And then just like we've done on this screen, we've just mapped out in orange, here are all the points of payment. Here are all the points of payment discussion. So when you're having that initial consultation, you can talk through, here are all the points that we're gonna have checkpoints around payments. And that way it's set up front. There's no question that if there's a change, they'll remember, oh, that's right, we talked about that up front. There was a international client that I was working with an architectural firm, and they had, the company they were working for had a CEO change in the middle of the project. And I'm sure some of you who work in this space know this story all too well. And the new CEO comes in and has a complete environmental mandate, which is fabulous. But we all know sometimes that is a change in materials, possibly increase in cost, and you have to rescope and reset the project. Because the team had really set up front all of these change management areas, they're able to talk through the changes and talk through then kind of reset on, okay, here's what this is gonna mean from a timeline perspective, from a scope perspective, but then also from a payments perspective. Because we know that there are things that even as our clients sign, they are just things out of their control that change. And so we need to have that in place from a payments perspective, that when that change happens, it's a change is good. Like, you just keep on moving through your process and make that client experience that much smoother. So within those phases, I want to call out a few. So on the proposal phase, this is that area to not just talk about the project, but really go through what I talked about earlier with the authorization forms. This is time to sit down and talk through specifically, how are you going to pay? Because the reality is, when we talk about digital payments, your clients all are able to pay. It's not an issue. Cash flow is usually not the problem when you've gotten to this phase. But what you want to do is offer your clients different ways to pay, because they might not want to hand out cash for this. They might want to put this on a credit card, because maybe this is a project where they can get points on their credit card and then pour that into employee rewards. Or maybe it's on the residential side where they have plenty of cash on hand, but they'd rather invest that into another project. They'd rather put this in a scheduled payment, or they'd rather put this into putting it on a credit card. So this isn't about having an awkward conversation about whether or not your client can pay. They can. This is about giving them the flexibility, them the options of how are they going to, and then they're empowered to keep their project on time. So you're passing the power, transferring the power to your client on, I want you to keep this project on time. How throughout each of these stages, within the proposal phase, are we gonna do that? And what's the best way for us to handle it? So this is really about not having a conversation about payment. This is about having a conversation about getting to the end result faster for your client. So make sure you're shifting that dynamic. And authorization forms are a great two-way contract to do that. Now, within the design phase, this is another great example of, throughout the design phase, just making sure you're communicating regularly to your clients. And a question that we get often is, how do you do that? And so at the end, I'll show you, we have literally email templates where you can just copy paste, change out some things that have the language in there about payments being due, how to spell out things, because we want to make sure that throughout the design phase, there's that regular communication, because we know what we don't want to have happen is the only time you're communicating is when it's about payments. So you have your communication flow, we want payments to plug seamlessly into that, and making sure it's just part of the regular, check-in meetings on track, so you don't have to have a special meeting outside of that, because then it starts looking like it's an issue where it's not. It's just part of the process and part of how you're going to work with your clients that much faster. Having consistent invoicing with the right level of itemization that your customer needs, having that conversation up front, because some customers absolutely need the line item details, and so that can also become a point of friction where they get an invoice, but it's not detailed enough. And then you have the kind of pin the tail on the donkey experience where you're trying to figure out exactly what they need. You might send them over 5 different versions. Just have the conversation up front. What level do they need? Some will actually tell you, don't give me a lot of details. We want to move this through seamlessly. The more that's in there, the more the team will negotiate. So they'll be an advocate for you because they have something that they want to have produced and created, and you want to as well. So you've got have common shared goals to work together on. And then the other area is around your channels to promote payment. Anytime you're interacting with them, we talked about putting QR codes on the back of your business cards, having it within your lobby, just having simple ways to pay. So it's just part of the experience and not looking like it's something that's a jarring insertion into the overall process and client experience. So on the screen, here are a few downloadable resources that we have available, going from a pre-qualification questionnaire. So this may be for the clients that you are a little concerned about their ability to pay, all the way to email templates that have been tested and vetted that you can just customize or just pull down and use. The credit card authorization form. We're so happy to share these because all of these are ways that you can just put them right into your practice. And if you have these existing, it's great to download these, have your team look at them side by side, see if there's maybe something that you want to update or tweak within your current experience. And then making sure as you have a way to pay digitally on your website, that it's showing all your payment options. So that way you've got, just less friction and you're able to move clients forward, that much faster digitally. So in summary for all this, because I know we went through a lot, I want to show just a simple checklist that you can go through as far as how are you going to incorporate payments into your overall experience so that you can make sure that you, your colleagues, the entire firm get paid 25% more a year. I mean, what would that look like as far as being able to allocate resources? So the first area to make sure that you have is PCI compliant technology. And we didn't go in depth on PCI compliance. What this is just making sure it's the payment card industry compliance standard. It's making sure that you're not storing any customer credit card information. And the simplest way to be PCI compliant is you literally don't have any credit card information that is physically within, saved to a Google Sheet or an Excel sheet on your desktop, or stored physically in your offices. What you want is this within your payments platform. So have the option for clients to enter in their information directly. And if you get a phone call on it, don't write it down. Don't ever write it down. Just say, wait, let me pull up our payment portal. I'm gonna enter it for you. So you're entering everything digitally and it's all secured. You're not creating any personal copies for that. And that's how you stay within PCI compliance. A lot of vendors will have PCI programs where you just answer questions every year and you get yourself PCI certified. And so that way, you're accepting payments securely. You're not storing any customer payment information, and you've got it all set. So make sure you have anyone you're looking at for digital payments has a PCI program there to support you, because we're really here to help you be successful in that. Second thing you want to look for is being able to process a wide range of payment types, from eCheck to credit cards. Sometimes there's virtual payment cards that happen from insurance companies. You just want to be able to accept all of that. So there's no friction, so that you've got a seamless way for clients to get paid. And you also, as your firm grows, or if you are lucky enough to be with a very large firm processing quite a bit daily, you want to make sure you're not going to have a limit on your transaction amounts. So what you want to have is agreed to and setups with your payment providers, because you never want someone to be trying to pay you and then for some reason you've reached your limit for the day. That's ridiculous. So you want to make sure it's seamless and that you're running really securely. The other thing that we talked through are the payment plans or automated payments. So this is just a way to have, and we have a lot of coaching on year-end collections as well, But this is really just a way to make sure that you're having that conversation, you're setting up really measured ways to get paid throughout the experience of the contract or throughout the year, depending on the timing that you're at. And for support, customer support, as you know, because of the field that you're in, where you're serving clients, it is just the game changer and the difference. If you have a credit card issue or payment issue, you have to make sure that when you're calling into your provider, you're not in a phone tree of press 1 for this and press 2 for this and your wait time is. That's not acceptable in payments today, because this is your business, this is your time. And so you need to make sure any vendors that you work with answer the phone right away, have people that are working through your accounts, because there is a whole market for automated bots and intelligence, and that's great. When it comes to running the payments for your company, this is not the space for that. So you need to make sure you've got actual people you can trust on the other end of the phone for if you ever have an issue that comes up. So credit cards are extremely secure, but you want to make sure there's a strong fraud or chargeback program for you. And then you want that timing and that real-time payment transparency so that you can move that much faster. So lots of tips in here. We've seen this be so successful across architectural engineering design firms. We'd love to keep giving tips and tricks and working with you, and really appreciate you spending time with us today. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.